Hello. Welcome to the Julie Jeppson podcast. You guys, I'm so excited about this, and I have to talk a little bit louder because I'm an idiot and left my microphone. But we've got this little backup device for Erik Thompson, right? And Skye? Is that how you say it? Okay. We've been trying to schedule this for some time. I came across a podcast that he was doing, and it just touched me. And I know that Gritty Mamas is about mamas and women full of grit and endurance and willpower. And so with what he is currently facing, I wanted him to tell his story, but to include Skye, his wife, and how she has played a huge role, a huge part in his diagnosis and his everyday living. So I don't have a script. I just want you to kind of take it away and tell me how you met, when you got married, how many kids you have, your story.
Yeah, we have a fun story of how we met. I'll let Skye tell that one.
So Erik was a teacher, a high school teacher for years and years, and he was coming up, and I was a student in his class when I was a junior.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And were you a football coach?
I was the head football coach there, yeah.
Okay.
And I was in his gym class, and I didn't care about sports and never went, and so didn't spend much time with him. But after I graduated, we ran into each other at a football game a year later, and he recognized me and said hi to me, and then later he asked my brother, who was a student before him, for my phone number. So nothing scandalous.
Yeah. Wait, so he must have been a young teacher and a young coach.
Yeah.
Right?
So he was just barely finishing up like student teaching and all that, and all the girls had a crush on him.
She's skipping parts.
I'm doing this fast version.
Yeah. Well, because like Skye was always, I mean, she was a beautiful, cute girl, but I never thought I would ever ask her out because she was my student. But when I went back to school the next week, one of her friend's brothers had said, "Oh, Skye saw you at the game. She would like it if you asked her out." So that's why I asked her out.
So she was the bold one.
I didn't know that would get back
she
to
didn't know it would get back to me, and then I actually sat on it for 6 months because it just was.
Yeah, you felt kind of weird.
You felt kind of weird about it, but anyway, it was. We were talking the other day. The chances of Skye and I meeting and marrying is just like 1,000,000 to 1. Usually I don't even go out at halftime to watch the halftime show, but I had a niece dancing, and it's the only halftime I've ever not gone in with my team, and it happened to be, her little sister was dancing. So anyway, we just feel like the stars aligned for us to meet, be married, and couldn't be happier with our family, and we have kind of a fun, neat story. That's not scandalous.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And you have 3 boys.
So 3 boys. So Kyer's 18. He's just about to graduate from Ogden High. And Jack is 15, just started driving. And Kale is 12.
Okay.
So we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And you just took a huge trip.
Yeah, so it's been harder traveling with Erik, so we're just trying to get in some trips, and he served a mission in Japan and has always wanted to go back, so we just did it, and it was amazing. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so are you diagnosed with ALS?
Yeah.
ALS. And when did you get that diagnosis, and what were your symptoms? How did that all happen?
Well, it's kind of been a long story of, most people, when they get diagnosed, have 2 to 3 years, and then you're gone, and it goes pretty quick. It actually about almost 7 years to the time right now.
7 years since the diagnosis.
My original diagnosis, something had been going on, was wrong from about like November, and I didn't know what it was. Loss of grip strength, significant loss of strength in just one of my arms. Anyway, when I finally went in to get it checked, I just thought it was an old injury from playing college sports or something that, they told me at that time, they did some nerve conduction tests and thought that I had, Lou Gehrig's or ALS, and they referred me to the U of U. So that's been about 7 years from, this May.
Wow.
But at that time, it was a really peculiar case where it was an only one arm, and they couldn't find, nerve death anywhere else in my
I was
body.
gonna say, so in your nerve, because I've had a nerve conduction test when I broke my wrist. Those suckers hurt.
Yeah.
Did they have signals?
So I knew something was off because only my right arm was having me trouble, and all of a sudden they were like, well, let us do your legs, let us do your other arm. So I got a little bit nervous. But anyway, when they told me that was obviously heartbreaking, and came home and told Skye, and we didn't really know exactly what it meant. And then as you look it up and learn more about it, we were just sick and devastated. But so when we went down to the University of Utah, they were perplexed and originally said, we don't think this is ALS. We think it's another nerve-related disease because of the slowness and the strange way in which it's progressing. So actually 3 years ago, this June.
So in 2021, yeah.
We knew just something more was going on, and I went to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, and there was officially diagnosed that it was ALS, just a rare form that was, moving slowly. So I was told you have 10 to 20 years from the time you got it instead of the 2 to 3. So we're at about 7 right now, and we're very fortunate. Feel grateful that, even though it's horrible and takes a lot from you, that, the blessing of time that we were given is, huge. So, I mean, there's more to that story, but, I don't know how much you want me to
Tell me it, what, yeah.
cry or whatever, but, not knowing for, those 4 years was very, stressful.
It was 4 years to find out the actual diagnosis.
So during that time, he had just lost the use of his right arm. So it was still walking, still working, doing everything.
So where my right arm was a noodle, and my left arm was getting weaker, but I could still do a dumbbell 60 pounds. I was doing everything left-handed, shooting, riding. I just figured, I've lost the use to my right arm, I'll deal with it. Then the left arm started getting weaker, and then I knew from previously looking at ALS that, if it hits the neck, and that it's likely ALS. So I didn't tell Skye, I didn't really tell anyone because I didn't want to worry him, but I knew it was hitting my neck. And so we found a way to get to the Mayo Clinic. And the first day I was in there, they actually told me that we think it's ALS. But I didn't tell Skye because, I was, devastated. I was hoping to go there and be like, they're going to find some strange disease that's not ALS, and we're going to find a way to cure it or stop it or, whatever. So, the worst case scenario happened. I was tested for 3 days, and then, I don't know, it was, I remember after I got the diagnosis, I called Skye and said, they don't know what it is. It's going to take 3 days, and I put a good face on. But I did call my brother, and, cried like a baby. And I was, it's the weirdest feeling ever, just, how did this happen to me? You're just, the world feels like it's imploding, but, so now I'm going to do these tests for 3 days, and I'm well, I'm just going to beat out the tests and not have ALS. As weird as that would sound. And I did well on the test, but enough that they thought, hey, this is slow moving. So anyway, the day that I was going to go get the final verdict, I remember the night before I cried all night, and I was in my mom's arms, and I was so scared to you just have that fear that they're gonna confirm what they told me, and how am I gonna deal with that? So I know that was a rough night. So the next morning, I went on a jog. Part of it just to get rid of the stress, clear my head. And in some ways I was this is one of the last times I get it. Run fast. I was run as fast as I can. People were probably what is this weirdo doing? But because I didn't really have jogging clothes, but I found like a couple miles away a park bench in an elementary school, and just prayed and prayed. Not really to not have ALS, but just somehow, please don't have this be something that's gonna, take me in 2 to 3 years, that I promise you I'll make the most of the time. And, be a better husband, father, try to serve others, glorify God or whatever. Just please give me this gift of time. So when I went in there and they said, the bad news is you have ALS, the good news is we think it's on a 10 to 20 year progression instead of 2 to 3. I actually, in a weird way, was like skipping out of there and happy, because I thought I was going to get a much worse. So, when I called my wife, I think she was a little, thrown off that I was
Happy about it.
so happy that it was, ALS, but it was on a 10 to 20 year progression instead of the 2 to 3. So, since then, we've had a lot of, growth in our marriage, and me as a father, and, just as a, a neighbor and a coach, and in many strange ways, feel like as hard as it is, ALS in other ways has been, a blessing in our lives, because, it narrowed our focus and our purpose, and it's brought us, closer. And I know, horrible things like that can do the opposite sometimes, and I was, scared to death that would happen, so just kind of went on a mission to try to refine myself and find anything that I could that would, ease my family's burdens or make me better or strengthen, me and my wife's, relationship. And we've certainly had, many hard days where we cry and things aren't good, or we're angry or whatever, but yeah, so that's kind of where we are
right now.
right now.
Yeah. So tell me about Skye. Skye, what do you have to do first? I'll ask you, and then I'll go to him. Tell me like a day in the life and what it requires.
Yeah.
So he can't really use his hands at all. Like, he can hold his phone in his left hand, like maybe scroll with his thumb, but that's it. So I have to help him out of bed, help him to the bathroom, help him into the shower, shower him, get him dressed.
Because you can stand still and you can
Yeah,
walk.
so luckily he can
right
stand,
now,
so it's not all, weight bearing. Yeah. So around the house he can kind of still walk a little. But whenever we go out, we take a wheelchair just for safety, and then I feed him, do everything. He actually has a feeding tube now. He still can eat, but just not as well. Like, swallowing's getting more difficult, so he has a feeding tube too that I can put stuff in his belly to get him more calories. But yeah, that's brush his teeth, do his hair, do his hair as best as I can. He always complains.
There's no end in sight to what she has to do for things. But you never realized all the little things. It'll be like, scratch, hey, I got a really bad itch in my nose. No, it's not there, it's higher. Oh, my beard, my neck. Oh, hey, wipe away my eye. Or I got a hair in my mouth. Or just, you never realize all the little things you took for granted that your amazing, body can do. Sleeping is probably the roughest on both of us, because, I can't move at all. So you're trying to get comfortable. So every time I need to move in the night, I have to wake her up to do it. And then how do you explain to, you got to move my left arm here, my right arm there, turn me a little more. So it's, sleeping for both of us is, was really rough at the beginning. We've, been blessed, and, you find people in the community that, oh, hey, try this medicine, or try this drug, or this helps me sleep, or, hey, this type of pillow, or this type of bed. So, slowly keep on working to find better ways. But that's really where ALS is so difficult, because the goalposts always move. And so physically and mentally, it's just so, exhausting, because as soon as you kind of figure out, well, now I figure out how to scratch my own nose or turn in bed. But then months later, you can't do that anymore, because those muscles that were allowing you to barely do that change. And then, so then you're, angry and frustrated and sorrow and mad, and then you feel emasculated because you have to even ask for more help, and then you have to retrain the person who was helping you. Well, now I need you to do it differently and more this way. So, it's just a constant, battle. But really, it's, a team, and in a weird way, being so, relying upon each other has made us become closer. Although there's those times when I'm like, I don't like my hair looks, and she'll be like, that's as good as it gets today. We're gonna be late, deal with it or whatever. So, we have those definite moments where she feels I'm being too needy, or I don't want to ask, so I don't ask enough, and then I'm frustrated because it really is, especially for me and my personality, and probably most men, it's, the physical pain and the mental anguish, but then I don't know if it's humiliation, but just the emasculation of feeling like, you're the man of the house, you should be doing all these things and taking care of things, and now she has to do all the things I did and take care of me. You feel some guilt and shame with that, which, you shouldn't. And so, we're really have worked on that and gotten better at that. If, serving others is what you're supposed to do and makes you happy, then when someone serves you, if that makes them feel good about themselves, then in a roundabout way, that we're helping and serving each other. So I really try to find as many ways I can with the abilities I still have to, have a purpose and serve and help others, because, physically that's kind of been robbed and taken from you. And so, every day that still is a balance that, trying to figure out how to best do that.
And as far as your work and you were coaching, do you file disability? I don't know how that works. Are you able to file for something, unemployment, or how do you support your family?
Yeah, we're working on that right now because he was a school teacher for so long. We do have some unemployment benefits, but I've also had to cut back work, so it's just tricky. We're still trying to figure it out. But we've been blessed with friends that have helped us. They've been doing a golf tournament every year that awesome. Just helps us get by.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure your boys help.
Oh yeah, for
right?
Sure.
Yeah. Are they? I mean,
we're trying. They are very helpful, but it's like we want them to still be kids. So
I know
it's a fine balance.
Yeah. I was just saying in the podcast I did last night that sometimes I find myself with my daughters. Yeah. Treating them like they're my partner. Yeah. Instead of my kid.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I need their help, and I'm like, okay, I have to remember. She's 14 and she's 11, and I'm expecting more from them. When when it's tricky balance.
That's exactly what we kind of talk about. But those conversations, instead of we were both in love and great partners to each other and had a good marriage. But when you're really pushed and motivated, that you have to communicate at a much deeper level and be more thoughtful and think about your kids and the future. As hard as that may be, then there's a lot of beauty and I guess there's such more of a feeling of we're on a team. We're much more conscious of others and our kids' needs, and in weird ways, things are better. Then as far as the long-term disability and all that, man, we feel so blessed because, we don't need to say the numbers, but the amount of money that
contributions
that long-term disability and Medicaid and Skye having to drop down to, we would be like homeless if we didn't have, so many, just story after story of person after person that in different ways has contributed to help that we can continue to, live the way we've been living, so that stress is at least alleviated, and we can, focus on, more important things in our family. So, just anyone out there that's hearing this, just, they know how grateful that we are to them, and what a really in, times of need, God has placed the right person that could have the right skill or the right connection or whatever in our lives at the right time. So, as you get fearful of the future, I think we've kind of built a little bit of a trust that just, we don't know how this is going to work out, but it always, it has, and just trust that it's going to continue to work out some way.
Yeah. Tell me how, how has it made your relationship with Skye better? And if you didn't have her, and how has this made you just see her determination and her fight and her, willpower to keep doing this? Because, we know that you are in a state of, like you said, mental anguish, physical probably pain, and lack of, mobility. And at the same time, the caretakers are under stress as well. So tell me about, it's pour out your love for her to me. What has that meant to you, and what does she
knows I never stop talking. In our relationship, we joke that I talk 80% of the time, and I'm the girl in the relationship. I share my feelings all the time and tell her
how this is a conversation we
beautiful
had last
and amazing
week.
she is, and how much I love her, and how
he does.
And she is, but she's just so, and I'll let her talk here in a second. But
the
the number one thing, though, that it's there was almost we joke about it, that one of the hidden blessings of ALS is now, I was one of those, I'm a coach, I'm doing driver's ed, I'm working, I coach all my kids' sports, I'm up early, I'm home late. So the amount of time that Skye and I really had to talk as husband and wife and just be friends was limited, like it is for everyone. So now that I'm home all day and driving her nuts, but just, all the things she does for me, yes, she's so tough and she's so gritty and she's so good at it. But like I joke, I was I didn't know you were so funny and amazing. It's just, I feel that our relationship has become, a lot closer. And not only do I love and appreciate her for how strong she is and how much she's dealing with, and the grace and the the toughness that she does to deal with that, but just, you start to peel back the layers of the onion, per se, of a person, and really get to know them. Kind of that, you get married and you're in love, and every year and every experience and you get to know someone a little bit, better. And I've joked with her, I think I'm to the point now that I love 99% of her.
That's a lot. That's higher than I thought.
No. Go ahead, baby.
What's the 1%?
Oh, you know what it is.
I'm short and direct and to the point. I think that's one of the main things.
Sometimes I'm you could be a little nicer. But we joke that her honesty is her being nice instead of being around the bush. So
it saves time.
Saves time.
So how do you dig in and do this every day? What's the driving force?
Well, last week we had a conversation because he's hey, sometimes you just come home and you're on your phone and you're, I want to talk to you. And I was I've been with people talking all day.
What
and
do you
I've been
do for work?
Well, so I'm a dental hygienist.
Okay.
But then in between, I'm taking kids, taking carpool, doing all this. I get home late from games.
Yeah.
And I just want to sit on my phone and be alone.
And veg and rot, as they say.
And I've been alone all day.
Yes.
And I want to talk and laugh and communicate with my wife.
So sometimes that's a little tricky.
But we really learned, though, instead of being secretly will maybe upset your spouse, or you kind of hint at it, or that we've just learned to be super direct and honest with each other. Hey babe, I kind of need to connect and talk right now. Hey, I've had a really long day, can you just give me a half hour to be on my phone, and then we will. So instead of kind of having those battles and the silent, all the stuff that comes with that, that's what I said, that our relationship was really blossomed in that. I've learned that I just have to be super direct and honest with Skye, because that's what she wants and needs. And she's learned that I need a little more hey, love you, babe, your hair looks good, let's have a talk, let's connect. So just learning that, we each have different needs in our relationship. And even though maybe it's not what we want to do at the time, or maybe it's not our natural skill set, that we're here to like serve each other. And there's times that I'm serving her, and there's times she's serving me. And just to have that, I guess more of that open dialogue has really been, refreshing our relationship. That it's instead of me being like bugged that she came home, she's on her phone, and I'm, secretly trying to kind of get her attention, that I just tell her how I'm feeling. And then if the answer is not exactly what I want, that I equally respect, her feelings and how she's feeling that. And then we find, in weird ways, we almost plan out, instead of being spontaneous all the time, it's like, well, this time we're gonna, have this conversation or do this. And as weird as that maybe sound to, marriage couples, like that has really been, I found a good thing that we know, okay, we know at some point we're gonna each get the thing that we want. And, not that everything's regimented now, but that there's just a lot more open line of communication and kind of planning out, times for each other's needs throughout the day and the week.
Well, and even in a marriage, I mean, when there's no I talk about, I have 8 kids, one of them has club feet, and that's been a challenge, especially when he was a baby. But I'm like, babies are hard enough without any problems. And it's the same with marriage. Marriage is hard enough and, challenging enough without any issues. And so to have this on top adds the stress and adds the resentment, whether or not it's anyone's fault, So I wonder, you probably are saying to yourself, and I don't want to make it sound insensitive, but how often are you saying, life is too short, let me do this, let me have this conversation, let me take this trip, how has that been kind of a driving force for you? I mean, it's like, do you feel like you stared death in the face and you're just like, not today, I am going to live this?
We can probably speak about this
forever.
I'll go first, but you go from your perspective. But it certainly was like, we certainly didn't have a bad relationship before. We had a great relationship, but we had a relationship of like, well, there's always tomorrow. I'm busy, we'll do that in the future. I am certainly grateful I was coaching all my kids' games, and I'd spend as much time as possible with my kids, because that's kind of how my dad was. But yeah, I felt like a shot of lightning hit me straight in the heart. And certainly an overwhelming feeling when I came home of, like, at the time I was the athletic director, I'm in charge of the weight room, I'm doing driver's ed. I was a workaholic, and very driven to be successful in my field of coaching, and still am. But it was amazing how easily, like, the first thing I did, I quit all driver's ed, I quit all athletic director duties, I quit doing the weight room. I just carved out and made sure that every minute of my time that I could be with my wife, and my kids, and at the expense of, whatever, money or being more successful. And the irony is I think, as people, and men especially, we think that we are happier when we have more and we're doing more and we're successful, and we take all this Broadway work, all these hours, and I deal with all this stuff. And, I am, way more happier now that we've prioritized taking these trips and family time and family prayer and just, things that you kind of let slide a little bit now and then that we're, much more intentional about, doing. And certainly we're not perfect, and we got a lot more, better to get. I don't know, from your point of view, babe, what would you add to that?
I don't even know what the question was.
Just like, well, just all the vacation we take, or like how did our mindset change from?
Yeah, it's been great, because he was gone all the time, and then all of a sudden he's taken all this time, and we kind of had to adjust, and still are, because I was like, I'm not used to you being home. Like, I want a little space, I need a little time, and now I have zero. Yeah. So it's been good, but it just takes a little figuring out.
So how was Japan? Was that difficult, or was it?
No, like it was a miracle, because it should have been a lot harder than it was.
Yeah.
So truly. So that was the first trip we've had to take where he's been in the wheelchair the whole time. And the people were amazing. Using public transportation, you know, it went very smoothly. So it was really was a miracle.
Did you see some like people that you baptized? Was it the woman in the pictures? Okay.
Yeah, so we were in Japan about 10 days. So the first 3 days I went to my mission in the southern part of Japan, Miyazaki and Kagoshima. And at that point, like, we planned to meet, you know, the person I'd stayed the closest with was a young mother that I baptized, and since then her son has grown up and gone on a mission and, you know, speaks English fluently and has a job in Okinawa working for the military and is doing great, and she's doing well, and so that was really fun for me to be able to see her, and she was kind of our tour guide for 3 days, and we could reconnect and she could meet my wife and kids, and so yeah, that was awesome. And then, you know, the next 7 days we were kind of on our own, but just kept getting blessed and things were easier and better than we thought they would, and our kids loved it. And so,
I bet. Okay, so you obviously have the physical grit. I mean, you're pushing through every day and you're allowing, you know, people to help you. I mean that's an element of pride and humility, right? You've got mental grit. Even I know that there's bad days, but tell me about like this spiritual aspect of it and how you have kind of had to reconcile with God and this, and how you stay faithful and draw closer to Him.
my answer is for Skye.
You, yeah. Erik was really struggling even just a week ago, and he's kind of had like a mindset change I can share.
Yeah, I mean, the goalposts keep getting moved. Because I came home, I have this great attitude, and then it's like, oh, this is harder than I thought it would be. So then you get, you know, sad and angry because it's so hard, and then you get, you know, like just the whole, you know, cycle of mourning. Instead of just doing it once or twice, you're doing it every week
Over and over.
for a year and a year, and then, you know, you think, you know, really the hardest thing about ALS is it's honestly not the current day. It's knowing that every day for the rest of your life is going to be harder, and there's nothing that can be done to change that. So to deal with the fear of the future, mentally, physically, everything, it's like, you know, there's times it just, you know, gives you so much anxiety and depression and fear that it's overwhelming. And you know, I've always been a pretty great person, so, you know, in your mind, I'm like, well, I am tougher than everyone. I'll deal with this. I'll have a positive attitude. And I go for, you know, months at a time, and then, you know, you're kind of hiding, you're faking it inside, and you're feeling way sad and worse than you're letting on. And at some point it comes out, and then you're really angry and sad, and you have to reconcile with that, and then, you know, start again. But yeah, I mean, it was honestly just a few days ago, a week ago maybe, that, I mean, we continue to have blessings in our life and meeting people that help, but, you know, my brother and I, who I'm, you know, really close with, we have what we call Tuesdays with Brother. So, you know, for those that don't know, and I'm sure they don't, there's a famous story about a guy who got ALS named Maury, and there's a book called Tuesdays with Maury.
Yeah.
And Mitch Albom was his pupil and finds out he's ALS and goes back and kind of is with him every day and interviews him and kind of keeps track of his thoughts and writes a book about it. So my wife worked every Tuesday, and I needed someone to be with me. And so just as a family, we decided like everyone was gonna not work that day and try to be that, like, so it's again, another blessing that for the most part every Tuesday I'm with my siblings and my mom and dad, and we laugh and we talk and we share stories, and it's spiritual, it's fun, it's, you know, it's a mixture. But this last Tuesday was just me and my brother, and he was asking me stories about, more detail of my life. How did I meet Skye? Why did I quit playing football? Like, what about this experience? And we found a box of pictures, and we're going, through them. And, great memories are rushing back to your head. And we actually came in and we were going to kind of talk about the recent conference talk by Elder Garrett Gong. And in it, he started there's a Chinese proverb that, a horse was lost. Oh, how horrible is that? And the farmer is like, well, we'll see. And then, the horse is found. And oh, how fortunate you are. Well, we'll see. Then his little boy is riding the horse and he falls off and breaks his leg. Well, that was so bad, how misfortunate. And he was like, we'll see. Then, the army comes to take away all the young men in the village to fight in the war. But his son's got a broken leg, so he doesn't have to go. So he's spared. Oh, how fortunate. We'll see. So we just kind of started talking about how in life there really is, as we shared those memories, there's really not a plan B. There's a plan A. And our Father in heaven knows us and loves us, and he's putting people in our lives and steering us down paths for us to reach our greatest potential and be as happy as we can be. And I went back and thought in my life, like, there was so many things that I thought were super hard and unfair, and I was mad and I was upset at that they didn't work out how I wanted, even though I put all this time and effort into it and it should have worked out. And it leads me down another path. Well, if it doesn't lead me down that path, then I don't become a teacher and a coach. And the joy I've had from that, if I'm not a teacher and a coach, then I don't meet Skye. And if I don't meet, so just kind of we went back through our lives and realized that almost without fail, when we were doing our best to love God and love others and reflect and repent and try to live righteously, obviously you're not going to be perfect, that all these many disappointments and heartaches and sorrows that we thought we had led to a path that was in the end that we didn't see at the time that was better, and that almost, I had like kind of aha moment of, you're in the middle of that, right now, that, yeah, ALS sucks and I hate everything about it, and, you don't see how this can lead to a good path, but just to trust, if you're doing your part, that how, our loving Father in heaven has a plan, and in the end, that it's going to work out, for our good. And to really have peace, man, it's just, I used to read the scriptures, or I used to think like, I was always talking about peace. I'm like, I want success and happiness. And I think I didn't value peace enough, and I didn't understand how important that really is until feel like you're a candle in a hurricane every day, and you're like, just anything to just feel peace I would give. And just really finding that, medicine and friendships and relationships and all these things that come in and out of your life that are good can bring you that for a short amount of time, but really trying to develop a mindset of really trusting God, and that this is plan A, and that everything will be okay and be for, me and my family's good, as, brings me more peace than all those other things, even though those are great and contributing factors. So, so just recently, Skye and I have had those talks that it's getting harder, it's getting more scary, it's getting more fearful of how we're going to deal with this, but, trusting that, hey, this is plan A, and whether in this life or the next, we're going to look back and be grateful for the lessons learned, and, the growth that we had as a couple and as individual people and as parents, and that somehow, even if we don't see it now, that it'll be okay.
Yeah. So. Tell me what you want to wrap it up. Tell me what when your boys and your grandkids look on this years from now, because it will be online, what do you want them to remember? What do you want them to know going forward? And the same questions for you as their mom.
Skye, you go first, because my voice needs a break.
I guess how I kind of get through it is just to live in the now. You know, if I think about what's to come, like, then I'd be, you know, a mess every day, you know. So I think just enjoy where you're at, enjoy each other, and don't think about, you know, the hard things to come. Just try and make the most of where you're at, and you'll be able to get through.
Because I mean, you've had your own grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get through that? By living just in the day, in the present.
Yeah.
And what do you do when you are having those moments where you're like, I don't even know what to do. I don't even know what's next. What do you do?
I don't know. Just spend time together, go to a game, just get out. If you're just thinking about yourself all the time, you know, you're going to live in that grief, but get out, you know, get outside yourself. I think is the healthiest thing you can do.
Yeah. Well, and you're just enveloped in service all day, every day. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what would you want your boys to know?
You know, Skye is like the most, like, faithful, serving, like, just doesn't think about herself person ever. I love that so much about her. And I think in some ways, maybe that protects her right now from the amount of grief that she should be feeling. It could, because it's always about what's best for each boy and for my husband, and for, you know, she's very conscious of other people. And when you get lost in that, in some ways it can in all ways, it's a, you know, it's a protection. They say, if you're worried about, if you're really worried and sick and upset about the past, or nervous and anxious and fearful of the future, you know, that you suffer 3 times, right? I read a quote recently that often people suffer way more in their heads than they actually really do in their bodies in the real time. So both of us just trying to learn to live in the present. And then as far as, I don't know, like I share my feelings with my boys way too often, probably they think now, but you know, just how much I love them, and you know, how proud I am of them. I think in a way, I hope it to be a lesson that, you know, you get to a certain point in your life because of all these experiences, and it shapes you. And I wouldn't go back and trade any of those. But there was definitely certain times in my life when I was so worried about proving myself and being first, or being the best, or winning, or striving, that I think you get your self-esteem, your self-worth gets caught up in, did you accomplish those things? And that a lot of that, you know, is out of your control. To just really, you know, love God, love others, reflect, try to work on becoming a better person every day, and, you know, letting go, as we talked about, and trusting that, you know, God's got a plan A for you to be happy, and, you know, whatever hard things come in your life, to know in the end that they'll be for your good, and you know, keep pushing through, and that you don't have to do it, you know, all yourself. That, you know, that's been certainly a profound and difficult lesson for me. I was a very independent person, that I'm gonna will myself to do something. Humbling to have so much help, but also I feel I understand the gospel better. I'm happier. I feel more fulfilled now that I feel I have a better perspective on, you know, all that. And, you know, I hope that my sons can learn those lessons from me and go be great husbands and fathers, and enjoy each day, and serve others, and that I'll be around as long as possible, and really, maybe, I don't know if we could close on this, but like I was really struggling with the number one thing that would cause me grief is just this feeling of unfairness, that I am going to miss out on things that are really important to me in the future, of being a grandpa and being at everything and seeing, my kids throughout their life, and that, I know when I'm gone, I'm going to be able to be to all those things much easier than if I were here, and that I'm not going to miss out on those things, and that, when, they're at one of their kids' baseball games and it's freezing cold, and, they're coaching them, that I'm going to be, there watching, and how proud I'll be of them, and the amazing, sons they are, and help they are to their mother, and, everything's gonna be fine, and this end up being, our path, not one that we would have chose, but I just have this, recent really good feeling that somehow, in all ways, whether it's the growth of my kids or my marriage or happiness as a family, that it's going to be okay, and that it's going to be better than we imagined. So
I love that. It's Thompson tough, right? That's the hashtag. Who came up with that?
Well, I think your sister did.
Well, I think I actually did, because I think I'm pretty tough. But there was some thing early on, and it was like Erik Strong, and I'm like, it makes it sound like my last name is Strong. I said I like Thompson tough better, because I've always, if there was one characteristic I thought I was more than most human beings, it was tough, and I'm lacking in a lot of others, and it's humbling now to see that you're not as tough as you thought, but with the help of others and God, that you can certainly get through whatever's coming. So.
But my goodness, you're mentally tough and spiritually tough, and I mean, that's really in the end all that matters, because you will be at those games. You will help them. I know that for my own parents, they have felt, my brother, whispering, in a spirit sense to them at events when we're all together as a family. I was only 2 years old, but they have felt him when we're all together. Like he's just as much a part of it. He'll always be there watching over your kids in a more powerful version of you. And they'll feel that daily. And I just want to thank you for doing this. Thank you, Skye.
Oh, thank you.
I know that this will inspire so many others who are dealing with things that are out of their control, and hopefully we can all have the same outlook as both of them in pushing through it and having grit. That's really what brought me here in the first place, is when you're like, the grit and the perseverance when I'm furious with my life. It was awesome, and you're inspiring.
Well, thank you. And I promise this one here is tougher than me. She just doesn't brag about it as much as me.
Awesome. Where can they follow you?
ThompsonTough.org.
Or there's a website.
Yes, or Instagram. It's Erik Thompson Tough.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then I have my I think it's called the Motive, MOTYV podcast.
So you're doing one too.
I refused to do counseling for 6.5 years because I'm tough and I don't need that.
Yeah.
And I finally found someone who I actually coached when he was younger, and his father passed from ALS, and I thought this would be a good match. And we just started doing a podcast together, because he was like, in our sessions, he was like, how would you feel about just talking about this openly? So I've done 2 podcasts with him, and I think we plan on doing, one every now and then. So
that's Motive, MOTY, on all the platforms.
I'll share it on the Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
If you want to hear more.
Yes, and that
if
was.
you're tired of hearing of me just follow my wife on Instagram. She'll make fun of me a bunch. It'll be fun for you.
Is yours different, your Instagram?
Well,
Yeah,
I
it's
just
the
have a
same.
personal, and
Okay.
and then we share stuff on the
Thompson
tab. So
Okay, so check that out in the description and join that golf tournament, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
Keep going. We'll get the top. We'll get. Keep going. We'll do second and third place.
Trio left.